welcome back to LAK Fight Network. And joining me is Alana Cook. Alana will be taking on the veteran Vanessa Melo BTC 32 on September 13th in Niagara Falls. So, as always, it's always a pleasure having you on, Alana. Welcome again, and thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's good to be back.
Yeah, first off, Battle of the Rapids again. It seems like we're back there. What does that mean to you to be able to fight in Niagara Falls and just represent Niagara Top Team?
You know, it's so cool because, coming off, when I first came to NTT, I was kind of coming off a loss. And so my first fight back was like my first fight off a loss, my first fight since my knee surgery, my first fight in my new gym with my new family, right? So there was a lot of pressure. But going out there, I just remember just feeling so much love and so much support and people cheering my name. And so it was really a homecoming for me, like this is my new place. This is where I belong. So getting to go back to that same venue and, make that magic happen again is very special. And I'm grateful. It's always nice being close to home. Things are a little easier. My last fight was in North Dakota, so that was a bit of a gong show to get there and, hotels and travel and stuff. So, fighting at home, there's that comfort of just, your family, your home. And I'm excited to do it again.
Yeah, I would imagine that just removing the stress of having to worry about the travel and the cost of just getting yourself down to wherever you have to fight. I feel like that's just one less pressure you have to take off, and you can just go in camp 100% and not worry about those outside things.
Yeah, like you still kind of have to roll with the punches, right?
That's true.
You could say, oh, like perfect, like I'm at home, right? And then you go to take a bath and all of a sudden like, oh, the heat's out. Right. So it's, even though you think, okay, there's one less thing to worry about, you always kind of have to be ready for things to go sideways. But yeah, like you control the variables as best you can. But I think that's what makes, great fighters great is that they can adapt to things, right? They don't let one thing that goes wrong break them. They can thrive in like the toughest situations, even if things go wrong. So I'm trying to kind of, I try to keep a pretty clear head and just think, okay, if stuff happens, you just deal with it. It's not really going to affect the outcome unless you let it, right? It's all mindset. So, but yes, definitely being at home is going to be great for that. One less thing to worry about.
I mean, this is a huge card for Niagara Top Team. There's several of you going to be fighting on this card. What's the energy like at the gym right now? I mean, Niagara Top Team's already a great gym. I can see that you guys are all very close, but what does it mean when a lot of you fight on the same card?
It's what is Jasmine calls it, like two weddings when her and Malad are on the same card. It's like two big, incredible things to be excited about, and it's happening the same night. So, it's so cool to, go to war with my brothers, and all of us are getting ready in the gym and we're leveling up together. It's funny, Miko, who's on the Ami card, he's actually fighting somebody with the same last name, Melo. So we're like, yeah, let's go. Like, it's going to be 0-2 for the Melos tonight. And, you have fun with it. So I think that's the thing too, is it's you're serious. Fighting is serious business. We all work hard. We all take this very seriously. But because we're all going through something so similar, you find like the moments of joy. And I think that's something about this fight camp that I'm really appreciating is finding those small moments of joy. Because I think with like my last camp, I was just a little too serious. I was just trying to, like everything had to be, 100%, like no goofing off. And now I'm just, I'm enjoying myself. I'm letting myself laugh. I'm letting myself have those moments of, those nights off. I'm working so hard, but I'm not driving myself into the ground. I'm starting to find that balance a bit more as a professional athlete. And I can honestly say this is probably the best I've ever felt 3 weeks out because I'm taking that time to nurture all those parts of me.
Well, before I ask you then about the fight, let's talk about walking like warriors. Sorry.
Yeah, for sure.
For those that don't know, how did this get all started, and where are you at with it now?
Yeah, absolutely. So Walking Like Warriors Self-Defense is a program I started. Gosh, I think like in 2017. It's been a while now. So I'm Métis. I'm a member of Métis Nation BC. And I was asked if I could run a self-defense workshop for some of their young women. And because they knew I was an MMA fighter. And I said yes. And I wanted to I never really taught self-defense per se. Like I taught martial arts, but self-defense is different. There's different things that you need to know. And a lot of self-defense, it starts before you get to the physical part, right? It's how you walk in this world, it's how you carry yourself, how you talk, how you establish boundaries. So doing some research into that, I was really disappointed by what I found. I just found a lot of really macho shit, and it wasn't very inclusive, and it was just, I just really didn't like it. And I said, you know what? I want to create something that appeals to people, that's culturally sensitive, something that's even got an element of fun in it. So a friend of mine, Larry Rousey, and we created the first Walking Like Warriors program. He still coaches for me sometimes on the West Coast, which is awesome. But I think we have 8 or 10 coaches now delivering this program. And I absolutely love it. It's my way of giving back to the community. I'm always so impressed when I see people go through it and see the changes in them and their posture and their mentality from even one session. So it isn't something I do full time because I'm also, doing my PhD, being a professional fighter, life. But it's definitely something that's a big part of my heart. And whenever I can do it, I try my best.
Well, you brought up 2 things I want to ask you. So the PhD, what is that for? And what would you like to do with it?
So I'm going to be getting my PhD in kinesiology through the University of British Columbia. My bit that I told my coach was I just want to, have one fight where they announce me as Dr. Alana Cook. And so my new nickname will be Dr. Stoppage. I think that will fit with it. So, but honestly, I know I can't fight forever. Like eventually we all get to that time when it's time to move on, whether it's to coaching or, martial arts is always going to be my life, no matter what. But I really enjoy, at the higher levels of education, breaking down martial arts, what it means, especially in the Indigenous community. We've got a beautiful history of how we've adapted to martial arts and that warrior culture. So learning about that and being able to teach that at the higher levels or work with an Indigenous sport organization and have that background is going to be super valuable. So that's kind of the long-term goal there, like the 10-year goal, just being able to still be involved as martial arts as much as I can.
Yeah, and then the second part, and I like that you have a plan after the fight, or after you are done fighting. But the second part I want to ask you is Métis. What is that? Is that like I'm still kind of wondering that.
Yeah, no worry. So it was taught incorrectly in schools for so long. So in Canada, there's 3 main Indigenous groups. Every country does it different, but there's First Nation, Métis, and Inuit or Inuk. So the Inuit or Inuk people live in the northern part of Canada. They've got their own regions. First Nation are everywhere from coast to coast. The Métis are specific communities, so from the Red River Valley in Manitoba, and then there's also settlements throughout the prairies. So it was a culture that developed from First Nations like Cree, Saulteaux, Ojibwe, when they met French. Here's your little history lesson: met French and English fur traders back in like 1718, whatever. And so it just developed a different kind of culture. So, if you look back in my blood quantum or whatever, it says I'm like Saulteaux, Cree. I've got different First Nations groups. But the culture that I was really raised with, that I recognize, that feels like my culture, is Métis culture, which is something, my grandmother, my Mimel, really shared with us when we were young. And a lot of people think that Métis just means like you're half First Nation, you're half something else. It's really its own thing. So I'm very proud of it. I know there's a lot of Métis people, like, because we do historically have mixed blood. We don't look like a typical First Nation person. So a lot of the time, there's a lot of that cultural disconnect. But, I'm so proud of who I am and where I come from. And, any Indigenous girls in Canada, I really I want to be that example for them. I want to be a role model. I want to, I want them to grow up and see that and be like, I can do that too. So especially when I get to do my Walking Like Warriors, when I get to fight and, wear my fight kit that has, Indigenous artwork on it. That's something I've been doing the last couple fights. And, I love it. I think it's so cool. And I love to, raise that awareness. So just all those little parts of me fighting, if I can tie it to my culture, I just get so much out of it.
Well, and you've done a lot of great stuff with your fight kits. Can you give a preview of what you're thinking about this time around, or do you want to keep the same fight kits?
Yeah, so I always pick a different color every time. So this color, I won't say what color it is, but I always do a little poll, so it'll be fun. But I've actually been talking with an Inuit artist from up north who I've known for a long time, and I asked if she would be interested in lending some artwork for my kit because there's not a lot of Inuk fighters, and their artwork isn't seen very much. So I think it's another cool opportunity. I've had First Nations artists, Métis artists. I've had lots of different artwork featured on my kit. So I think that's going to be kind of cool to have some of that far, far northern representation. And then Defila, who is a fight kick designer extraordinaire. She's done Chris Cyborg, Liz Carmouche. She's done everybody. So she's on board helping me do this one. So I'm very excited for when that comes in the mail.
Yeah, that's really awesome. That's cool. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I like what the polls that you do with all the fans. I think that's really cool what you do there. Now, let's talk about the fight itself. What he offers you, Vanessa Melo, a UFC and PFL veteran. Was this the type of kind of step up in competition you were kind of looking for?
Absolutely. And I was talking with some people this just the other day. I find it's really hard when you just turn pro or you have one or two fights under your belts because everyone's so protective of their record. Nobody wants to, like fight down and get sniped out by somebody who's 0-0 or 1-0. So it's actually really hard, I found, to get like a fight around that stage like a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was 2-0 and then it was hard to get someone. And then now that I've had a few more fights under my belts, I'm 4-2. I'm kind of ready to look at that next step in competition where, I'm probably 2 fights away from getting in the UFC if I have some good performances. So it's time to start testing my record, right? It's not going to look as impressive if I'm beating, newcomers like 2-0, 1-0. I want some people that have been around a long time. I want to show that I can hang with people who've competed at the highest level in the world. So this is definitely something that, you're never like, I really find this being ready is a mindset. Being ready is a decision. So I think, maybe if they'd offered me this like a year ago, I might have been like, oh, I'm not ready. But I had to really look at my training I do and the people I train with. And I had to say like, no, being ready is something you really decide. So I decided, I'm fucking ready. Like, let's go. So I'm really ready to rise to the occasion and show off all my hard work and just have a lot of fun in there with my Niagara top team homies.
Well, and do you feel like a win over Vanessa in whatever fashion, whether it's dominant or a knockout or a submission, do you feel like that will put you in a good opportunity or put you in a position to give you a good opportunity, maybe in a higher promotion, a higher opponent? Like where do you feel you stand?
Yeah, so BTC, this is my 3rd time fighting for them, and they've always taken such good care of me, and I really appreciate it. Even though, it's not on Fight Pass, like it's still a very respectable, well-known organization in Canada, and they bring in people from the States as well. So something Sherry told me, actually, who's the owner of BTC, was she's like, I love giving girls belts because then I never see them again. And in the best way, it means like then they go on and they move on to the big show. So I'm really grateful for everything that I've learned, everything I've done with BTC, and I might still have a few more fights with them. But I would love to fight, I would love to fight abroad. I'd love to fight overseas. I'd love to fight something at a higher level just to say that I've done it and see how far I can go. And I definitely think, when you check out my Tapology and you see all the people I fought, like, oh man, Vanessa Melo, like she fought Tracy Cortez, she fought Irene Aldana, like she has fought some amazing girls. So I think that just by being in, whispered in the same breath as that is very exciting, let alone getting a win. So, that is the ultimate desire. That's the ultimate outcome I'm looking for. But even just to be in the same cage as someone who was in the UFC, like that's something like 10-year-old Alana would not have, thought that would happen. Right. And I always say this, like, I like to think that like 10-year-old Alana would think I was pretty cool. Something I talk about with my mindset coach, Mindset Mike, is you look at the problems or the worries you have and you think like, what would you have done to have these problems and worries 5 years ago? If 5 years ago you'd have told me, oh, like you're going to be dieting and making weight because you're fighting a UFC veteran, like it's not even a problem. Like what a great opportunity. So just like in my mindset, I'm so grateful for this chance to really prove myself and just be in the same cage as her. And I'm excited to see what happens.
That's awesome. Now, what do you think about Vanessa's style, and where do you see you have the advantage in this fight?
So she is, she's a black belt. She's been training for probably her whole life. Her husband's a coach. So I know her life is martial arts. So she, just like me, lives and breathes this. She's a good striker. She's tough as they come. Like I've watched some of her fights and this girl really has no quit on her. And neither do I. So I foresee this being the fight of the night because we both just have that grit in us. Obviously, my wrestling is something I've come from. I'm very proud of, but especially going against someone with jujitsu, you always have to be mindful. I've been working on my striking a lot with Jelly and Powell and Tisha, people at our gym with D-Marks, really fine tuning that because I think that's something before where I was a little bit more hesitant. I was a little bit more comfortable on the ground, but I've just, in this time in this year at the gym, I've been able to get more comfortable standing. So I'm really looking forward because we both seem to be very well-rounded fighters. And again, just tough as hell. So I think that this is going to be a real crowd pleaser.
Yeah. And do you bring anyone to train? Do you bring anyone in to train for an opponent like Vanessa, or do you just put your faith in your team, in your circle of teammates?
Well, that's just one of the things about why I moved to Niagara Top Team is it's such a deep team. There's so many fighters, and not just fighters, but good fighters, So right away I was like, okay, I'm going to grab someone who's southpaw, who is, like a little bit stockier, who has, good clean striking and good jujitsu, and boom, there's that person in the gym. I know Vanessa also likes to do orthodox, so I'm also working orthodox. I'm working with someone a little taller, a little shorter. It's nice to not just be limited to one body type or one style or one attitude. There's literally a different person every day I could grab or work with the same people. So that's one thing that's really awesome is there's always training partners and there's always people who can do that style.
Obviously with Vanessa being part of the Fighting Nerds, do you think that a win over her, do you think that you can go and steal some glasses off her team, or what do you think? I know you're a game opponent, but come on.
No, actually, I didn't even know she was a fighting nerd. And then I saw her in like Bruna Brazil's corner and I'm like, oh, wow, she's a fighting nerd. So again, it doesn't intimidate me. It excites me because, again, I get to be mentioned in the same sentence as the fighting nerds. Like, oh, yeah, Alana Cook's fighting Vanessa Melo from the Fighting Nerds. Like, that's amazing. That's a huge deal. And, I very firmly believe that Niagara Top Team is the best gym in Canada. And, I think that they should be like, oh, Niagara Top Team. That's who we got to be worried about, right? Instead of the glasses, we got the shirts and we got the mean wrestling styles. So I think it's all respect. Vanessa's competed long enough. Like she seems extremely respectful, and I don't see a big ego about her, which I really appreciate. This isn't going to have to be like some kind of social media, taking digs at each other for the fans. I think there's going to be a lot of mutual respect. Because, we're both women who love martial arts and who want to fucking win. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun in there.
Now, before I get to the last part, hardest part of your camp, is it the diet, sparring, or just the mental grind? What's the hardest?
No worries. But you know what's funny? I think for me, the hardest part is when I get home and I sit on the couch and I go, what do I do now? Because I love working hard. I'm truly addicted to the endorphins I get from hard rounds. So, like on Monday after those like crazy intense wrestling sessions we do, I go home and I feel alive. I feel so on fire. And then I have my food and I'm trying to, I think this is one camp, like I said before, where my coach actually, cut 2 of my sessions a week because like, he's like, you're training so much and you go for it all the time. I need you to take just a bit more time just to, go to the water or relax or be around family or do the things you love to do. So I'd say for me, the hardest part is just, finding a little bit more of that balance, which, as this is my seventh professional fight, I like to think that with every camp, I get a little bit better at it. But just, I just love fighting so much. I love being in the gym. I love that excitement that just in those calm times, just remembering like, this is part of it too. Just having this stillness and having this rest and this anticipation. This is just as important as all the other aspects of it.
For sure, for sure. Now, I just want to get the last part of here. We've kept it serious. I just want to have fun here. Let's talk about things inside camp, outside the cage. What is your go-to cheat meal?
Oh gosh.
What is on your mind when you're sitting on the couch?
It's so funny. So I work with a really good nutritionist, the diabetic fighter, Sean Wicks. I worked with him since my pro debut. We never miss. And he's honestly become like one of my best friends. Like we talk all the time and we can have that really good jokiness with each other. And I love a good dessert. And I was laughing because I was at my boyfriend's family's cabin and they had like a yellow citronella candle. And I looked at it, I'm like, that just looks like a beautiful lemon meringue tart to me right now. It was that same yellow color and it would look like it was like in a little dish. I'm like, you're cutting weight when just everything looks like delicious food. And we were laughing about that. So yeah, like I love a good dessert. JC Patissier it's a little bakery cafe all the fighters go to, and they have the best cheesecakes. So I know as soon as fight camp's over, on Monday or Tuesday, Juan's going to see me and he always like hooks us up and like treats the fighters so well. He's going to make me a big cheesecake.
Oh, that's great. If you had a special finishing move, kind of like if it was like Mortal Kombat, what would you call it?
Ooh, I think I would wrap these big beefy arms around their heads so tight that they would just pass out, and it would be the Alana Conda.
That's awesome. And
I was like right off the top of my head too.
No, you know what? That's what I'm looking for. No, it's like first thing that comes to your head. What for a fighter, especially female fighters, have you ever got a weird DM from a fan? And how did you react to it?
All the time. Yeah, like my other inbox is like super weird. Like I remember when Jazz was like had OnlyFans and she's like for her fighting and she's like, dude, look at some of the messages I get. But you know what? Sometimes it's just people who are messaging me and they're very sweet and they just honestly like, just want to talk to a fighter, reach out. So I try never to be like too standoffish. But if it's something like really out of left field, I'm like, I'm just not even to give them the attention. So, I've gotten weird requests for me to like beat guys up in front of their buddies because they want me to, or send my feet. And I'm like, I'm just not gonna open this other inbox. That's just gonna stay on the back burner.
I really don't know what it is about guys or women or whoever like feet pics, or I don't understand it. I don't understand guys that want a woman to come beat them up. I don't know if it's a weird fantasy fetish, but regardless, you handle it like a champ. If you had if you could trade a walkout song with any fighter in the world, who would it be and why?
So this is a little throwback actually. So and I wouldn't trade this. I would say that this is just one that I've always admired. So there was an MMA fighter from BC, Chris Anderson, the Buckwas. He was called. He's no longer fighting, but he's First Nation, and he used to come out in a full. We would call it the Sasquatch in the English language, but in his language, the Buckwas, the wild man. So he'd come out in full regalia, and he'd come out and he'd have. I think it was like a Tribe Called Red playing, and it was very spiritual and it was very beautiful. And I think that's honestly one thing that inspired me to bring more of my culture into the cage. And that's something, now I treasure it. And it's not just me walking out trying to be brash and loud and like hype the crowd up. And like, that's fun too. But I almost look at it a bit as like a responsibility. Like I want to walk out. I want to look noble. I want to look like somebody, who's excited to be there, but is also, I'm carrying a lot of things on my shoulders right now. And I want to be a good example. So yeah, I always thought that was a really sick walkout. And if you YouTube it, like it's absolutely chilling. It's really cool to see.
Well, yeah. And I'm going to have to, I never have, But for you, do you have any plans to do something at the weigh-ins as well? Maybe something, any tribute that you'd like to do to your heritage?
Yeah, I always wear these red earrings called they're called little red dress earrings. So I've been wearing them every weigh-in since I went pro, and they represent missing and murdered Indigenous women and the efforts to find them. So a lot of people don't know this, but Indigenous women go missing at a rate way higher than non-Indigenous women. I think we make up 2 to 3% of the population, but it's over 20 times the average of Caucasian women for going missing and being murdered. And there's lots of reasons for this: systemic racism, the effects of colonialism. But I think one of the most important things is people just know about this and know that this is happening. So it's really cool because people have asked me before, like, why are you wearing earrings at a weigh-in? And then it gives me an opportunity to start the conversation. And if I can use the sport as a platform for something bigger than myself, then I feel like I'm doing the right thing.
I think that's excellent. I think it's a good way not to just bring the education, but just the awareness and be able, like you said, use your platform. Anyway, Alana, I know we're running up on time. In all seriousness, I appreciate you taking the time, and it's always a pleasure having you on here and having a chat with you. And just good luck on September 13th, and hopefully you bring back that win for Canada, and hopefully we'll talk to you again soon.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure chatting with you, and glad I could make the time. And you have a great day. And I'll see you out there September 13th, everyone. Just want to thank my sponsors: Primus Dia, Stillater, Creative Dynamics, Pumped. There's so many amazing people that have helped me on this journey. Brett Storr, my physio, Sean Wicks, my nutritionist. Just thank you, everybody, for your support and for being part of Team Alanimal.